My name is Trisha de Borchgrave. I'm a writer, and for my own personal well-being, I'm also an artist. So technology, I'm going to give you a little intro, because technology really has often been compared to the moon. With every bright innovation, there is a dark side to technology. And are we okay? Because I'm just, okay. So we know that inevitably, technology has been the most extraordinary, empowering tool that we have. It's created creativity, it has given us intellectual stimulus, but it has also magnified, for most of us, behavior that can be harmful to our mental well-being, to that mental health of knowing who and what we are and feel that we're in control. And while human beings, we remain very social and sociable creatures who depend on interaction and collaboration and cooperation with one another. This digital hyperconnectivity has also amplified that sense of feeling quite isolated and alone. And right now, the ballooning statistics of loneliness, that people are suffering from loneliness among differing age groups and across international borders, has led actually the Red Cross to call this the hidden epidemic. So there have been surveys. There's one that the BBC Radio 4 did, which was a nationwide survey, and it found that 40% of those between 16 and 24 really do suffer from loneliness. Either often they feel lonely or very often. And that's even compared to the older demographics, between 65 and 74. A country like South Korea, one of the most successful economies in Asia, has the highest suicide rate of any OECD member state. And in 2015, reported around 37 suicides a day. So loneliness matters because it is linked to our physical illness. It's also linked to cognitive and functional decline. Moreover, being overly connected has also got some psychological issues connected to it. And that is whether we suffer from distraction, we suffer from narcissism, we suffer from a sense of instant gratification that we need. And indeed, a lot of people suffer from loneliness and depression. So there's that. There's also the physical side of digital interconnectivity, which is neck strain, which is visual impairment, which is hearing loss. So at this point, wellness at work is not really being painted in a particularly bright, chirpy picture. There are technologies, we know this, that can improve psychological well-being. We have virtual reality, robotics, social management systems that can help us, that can guide, can encourage healthier lifestyles. It can if you like, reinforce empathy. It can show us how to practice, I don't know, I mean, any of those very emotional go-to places that makes us feel we're validated and that we belong. Chat rooms are very much that way. They can give you that sense of purpose, belonging. You can practice, if you like, that sense of kindness. Kindness that we're missing in the outside world. Kindness and indeed gratitude. So these things are part of our world right now. So how do we negotiate? How do we wield that double-edged sword that will enhance our AI communities, our AI workplaces? Is technology giving us what we need, but at a warp speed that we simply can't adapt to quickly enough? Will technology in the end help us understand ourselves better so that we can then take the advantages? So these are the questions and many, many more that that I'm going to now address with this panel. I have next to me Michelle Gilbert, who is Facebook Communications Director of Facebook for Southern Europe. We've got Sandrine Coulange, who is the head of health strategic programs at AXA Next, which is part of the AXA group, their innovation team. And we have Essam Daod, who is the co-founder and mental health director of Humanity Crew, which is basically specializes in giving psychological aid to refugees and people in crises. So let's turn, if I could, to, I keep thinking no one's hearing me. Are you hearing me? Yes, good, thank you. So Sandrine, can I just turn to you first? Because
yes. Do you hear me? Yes. Yes.
Do you hear? Okay. Okay. So Sandrine, I've given you a sort of rather grayish picture of wellness at work. It's very complex. We are a nuanced species moving into a whole other area right now. How do you see technology impacting on the wellness of workers, either as individuals or working within teams in the workplace?
Yes. So hello everyone. Thank you for having me. So I'm happy to give AXA perspective on this very large topic. So first of all, I would like to talk about the risk side. So as a global leading insurance company, we're very concerned about the current risk, but also the future risk, and this is an emerging risk. So we have a department at AXA that is called emerging risk. They are capturing some signals that we may have around our different entities around the world. And they'll try to study the long-term impact of this risk. And hyperconnectivity, of course, has been identified. But what is really striking is that actually is not so much the usage that we do at work. It's also that digital and connection has changed our leisure time. And there's a study that says that actually the employees' usage of internet is skyrocketing during the holidays period. Which means overall they are more connected at work. And overall, this is very interesting, you see, because that it's getting too much.
But is it? Yeah. But that might be hopeful in the sense that it shows that people are beginning to separate their work patterns away from their life patterns.
Yeah, but they have more. They use this free time to be more connected. Yeah. What is interesting on the impact, on the long-term impact, I think the study are a bit contradictory. Researchers are not aligned on whether the negative effect. The people that are at risk to suffer from the technology consequences are the people that are at risk to suffer from mental illness anyway. So would it be for technology or other risk that you know?
So research is not showing that those who are not vulnerable to begin with are not. Is it that clear cut?
No, it's not. It's not clear.
All
you know, I think
So tell me about technology that can encourage wellness at work.
Yes, absolutely. So in the innovation team, we are, doing a lot of market watch on these startups related to mental health, and it's very interesting because this year we are on a path of reaching, I think, $500 million of capital investment in startups that are dedicated to mental health. Ourselves, we have an investment fund that is called AXA Venture Partners. They have invested since 2016 in a company called Anum Health. They are dedicated, it's a confidential tech platform that supports people with drinking problems, and it is sold through employee benefits. So it's, 2 employees, and it treats also the related issues such as stress, anxiety, and it's really working well. They're just partnering with an insurer in the US to be more broadly distributed. And I think, our approach at AXA is not just technology is the answer. Yes, some startups are being very successful, but those are the ones that connects technology with human expertise, human being, human touch. This particular example, you have a coach behind, the startup, etc. It's not just a tool that is helping you. And overall, this is our approach in our innovation. So, for example, we have betting on telemedicine, teleconsultation. It's providing access to people to better care and more care, But in the end, it's a medical professional that is handling the service.
And can I just ask you, because with issues of mental health, these are very time-consuming issues. This is not a quick pill here and take this and you'll feel better. Where does a person who's suffering from the conditions we've talked about, whether it's loneliness, anxiety, lack of confidence in the work experience, in the workplace, where do they find this time to do it?
in their workplace. So yeah, I think technology is bringing flexibility. The fact that you can do it anytime, anywhere. So it gives you more opportunity to connect with these people. And what is really interesting is the fact that sometimes distance the technology brings makes people speak more freely. Because maybe face-to-face they wouldn't dare to discuss about some problems, or it's also true with people that are, have harassment at work. We are talking about women, so it's something you can more freely express yourself.
And does it help? Does that help contribute to change the culture of leadership in the workplace? Because these are issues that are very, very delicate often, and people don't want to admit to having mental health issues.
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
The boss is not interested because they've got to keep going.
I would
Yes,
like
please.
to just jump in there. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm happy to be here. Going back to the workplace, we've seen a lot of change. Facebook launched Workplace, which is a professional version of Facebook for the workplace, because most people in the workplace, their biggest complaint was that they were not aware of what was going on. They were not in the communications. They were not in the loops. They didn't feel part of something. So that changed the culture of the company from going from top down to bottom up. That was just about information, so being inclusive. Also, another thing that technology brought was it's about bringing people together in the real world. I don't like to say the real world versus the digital world, but let's say it like that. It makes it easier.
We haven't completely melded yet,
right? So thanks to technology, exactly like we were saying, there are groups that are being created around issues that really matter to people, so they could get together in the workplace and talk about them. And this is anonymous if they want it to be anonymous. There's applications. We have an application about sleeping. If you're not getting enough sleep at night, we have an application that can help you handle your solution. And also there's the startups. I lost all my notes. What's really incredible is to see there's startups being created that are completely focused on bringing people together in the workplace physically. I'm thinking of Random Coffee, which is a French startup. Their whole business model, or their whole reason of being here, is to get people to have a coffee together. Somebody that you would have never seen because they're working in accounting and you work in communications, that you have something like we love running, so they get together around a different subject, so it's less pressure. You meet with people that you would have never met in the company, so we're bringing people together through technology. Technology is just the means of communicating and
is there
together.
evidence that when you bring out these apps that help with people sort of thinking about their feeling lonely or needing something, do they go on to these apps as often as they go on social media apps, just for that sense of, I've got 5 minutes, I'm going to do it? I mean,
I don't have any figures, not because it's quite new, this new era of chatbots. So there's even a new magazine that was created called Chatbot Magazines. I think it's very early days. It's new technology. Things are being used. I think the point I'm trying to make here is that technology is just a means to bring people together.
And I'm just going to, that's in terms of a little bit of a challenge, but in terms of a social media platform such as Facebook, which has components that make you stay on it. I'm not saying that they're addictive, but there is maximizing this usage algorithms that you can have, that can have your drop-down warning saying, not warnings, drop-down, please back in, actually encouraging you to log on. That you're willing to design in a way that encourages less usage, less overusage, because
of course, and I just want to correct that, because we take well-being on the platform really, really seriously, and it's not just because it's become the new thing that we're thinking about. I mean, we are a social network. What is a social network, though? It brings people together so they talk and so that they interact. Yes, that's what we do. We also give tools now, and for some time now, that help people understand how long, what they're online. It's not about how long you're online or how long you're using an app. It's what you're doing. And I think we were going to talk about this later. It's about having meaningful interactions. It's not about liking a cat photo. It's about, I'm online because I want to be in contact with this person or with this group of people. So we have done everything to develop our product around meaningful social interactions. And people who have followed maybe what Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp have been doing, we're really focused around community.
Yeah.
Because we see that people want to be with a community. For example, I'm a runner, and there's a group that runs with blind people. And so you get together with people you have never been able to meet before around something that really is meaningful to you, so that gives you some satisfaction, and you feel positive about it after.
But are we just going to not be able to avoid, and perhaps we have to just educate our children and ourselves not to fall into that sort of highly public performative side of social media, which is really playing its negative role on young people in terms of lack of self-esteem and anxiety, etc.
Just to talk also about that, I'm a mother of four digital natives, which is quite interesting, and they teach me a lot every day about all of these subjects, and I'm very thankful for that. And there are, of course, very negative aspects that we could see and positive aspects. I just think that the digital natives have a different way of approaching all this than we do. Totally different, because they're born with this digital world, and they have, in most part, understood the difference between, is this, something that's worthwhile for me or not? Of course, they're having fun too. It's just like the telephone. How many times, when I was a child, did my mother run in and say, "Are you going to be on that phone all night?"
Yeah.
She was afraid for my mental health because I was on the telephone all night. This is just the transition.
But that was much more controllable than social media.
No, it wasn't. My mother could not keep me off of a telephone. And TV.
Well, my mother could.
TV also, when TV came out, any technology that comes out, we need to understand how it works. And as you said in your introduction, it is a parent, an educator, and people around us. It's our responsibility to educate also. We can't say technology is the problem, it's the use of technology that's the problem.
Exactly. Let me turn to Essam now. So you very much specialize in people who are in crisis of a mental crisis often, and seriously so. So what do people in crisis need from technology in the workplace that they cannot otherwise access?
I think without sorry, just
Can you hear Essam?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm hearing myself. It's
Oh,
it's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah. My
Maybe
voice
that's
is
a good
nice.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I agree actually with everything you said here already. I think technology is a tool. We decide how to use it, and we are not supposed to wait from the people who providing us the technology to tell us how to use it in a way that can protect our children, or in a way that we can use it properly. The issue here is how this technology can be used as a technology, as a tool that can bring benefits to us. And in the field of refugees, we are talking about 68.5 million people. Our population, it's the 4th country in the world now. And it's a huge manpower. And what we are trying to do in Humanity Crew is to provide the mental health support so these people can really be part of the host communities or build their homeland again. And without technology, you cannot do this. When we took the life jackets and we tried to create from this Christmas decoration or bags to sell, without the technology, without Facebook, to distribute this in Facebook and ask from people to see how these projects are and please buy it, or to connect seniors, retired people from the US to teach English refugees in refugee camp in the Middle East. We cannot do this without the technology. Bringing mental health professionals from countries that cannot come to Europe and provide this service because they are potential refugees, like bringing psychologists from Jordan and Egypt to provide cultural adapted service to someone who share the same culture, a Syrian or a Palestinian or Egyptian refugee in France, that the French psychologist with all his knowledge cannot reach him because of the barrier of the culture. Technology made this possible.
Right.
So technology for us, I study medicine in something equal to the MIT. It's like it's a tech college that have a very small medical school, and when we study medicine, we study from the point of view of technology, and we saw that how you can take technology to the field. And I think in a crisis zone, in a place like refugees, without technology, you not really can access and bring
And
this
in a
to
way,
maximum.
that's maximizing for
Exactly.
beneficial reasons. I wanted to turn now to Fernanda Lagoeiro, who is a Brazilian Girls 20 delegate to the forum this year, and wanted to get your insights from very much a vital demographic here, and if you have a question for the panel.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. As a young Brazilian woman, I have to say that both technology and social media had a huge impact in Brazil this year, especially last month, because we had elections. And both Facebook, Instagram, and technology in general increased the debate and democracy a little. So it was very positive. It also put a spotlight on unknown women candidates, and we have a lot of problems with leadership position in Brazil, so it was really positive. And talking about workplace, I want to know, Michelle, and maybe the others feel free to complete it. I want to know, how does social media impact freelancers and independent workers, as they are usually hard users of social media?
Great question. Who wants to take it?
Well, I could talk a little bit about, thank you so much, because what you just said is very incredible, and that's a wonderful message, because if the platform can be used for good and for democracy, that's exactly what it should be used for. Of course, we cannot do everything perfectly, and we're working really hard on that, but it's very encouraging, and I will share that back with everyone at the company. Now, coming on to empowering people that are freelancers, or empowering women, that's a huge area of focus for the company, because that we've seen spontaneously across the world that people that didn't have an opportunity to create a business, people that didn't have an opportunity to get in touch with people to sell their goods that they're creating, have now an open window on the world thanks to social media. You can create an Instagram page, you can create a Facebook page, use WhatsApp, and you can get in contact with future clients. So people that didn't have any economic opportunity have now created it, and on a space where they can get clients or people to come in. But over and above that, we're helping people around the world. We have a program specifically for women called She Means Business, and this is a global program, and we had it here in France, where we have trained 50,000 women here in France this year. And this is basic training, because we think that everybody understands digitals because we're in the digital world, but some people have no idea even how to do the simplest thing. So we said we have to start with grassroots, and we really have to give people the basics so that they can empower themselves with this media. And so we are doing a lot of things, and we have a leader called Sheryl Sandberg, who is very for women and women excelling in the workplace and finding their becoming entrepreneur, as we say. And so we are really focused on helping women and all people that are underprivileged, that can't have access to all of this training, that don't have education, so that they also have access to these tools. So we're seeing wonderful things, and it is a top priority, and we'll keep on
And
that.
can I just go on that as well with Sandrine? So in the work environment, this is the entrepreneurship, this is the individual empowerment. It's having, circumventing constraints and being able to sort of leapfrog areas of impasse for a lot of women. But what about within sort of the corporate world? Can technology influence that environment to be more gender equal and diverse?
There's a question, because in the innovation team we have created a new space, so it's very inspired from the startup mode,
Right.
So we have a flex work, so free, you can sit wherever you want, you can adjust the height of your table, you can work from home, you can use 1, 2, 3 screens, so it's really about giving the employees many options, and they can choose, what is the best for them.
And how does that play into a more gender equal workplace?
Well, first of all, so the flex home, it's it's a
Okay.
given that it's helping a lot. Personally, so I have 2 kids, very young, and I travel. I have a demanding job, and I think it would not be possible it's not technology is not the only reason, but it would not be possible without the help of this technology and the flexibility technology brings to combine all of this and not to have to choose or sacrifice one aspect.
So before we do this call to action, I did want to at some point open this up today to the audience. Does anyone have any questions? Because I'm very happy to keep going, but does anyone? No? No queries? Definitely not? Okay. Can someone give the lady a mic? I can't see you very well.
Hello, everyone. I am Hanan. I represent the Global Shapers community, which is a community of young people leading to change worldwide. We're 7,000 people. And we're working a lot on mental health, well-being, and how well-being can change the lives of people. So the question, there is a conversation that we're still not seeing. It started a little bit on talking about the well-being, especially for entrepreneurs and social innovators. So how can we change the conversation and bring this more forward? Like, maybe at a government level, at an enterprises level, how can we make this conversation more important, and how can we bring well-being? Because I believe in a mantra of a specific project that says well-being inspires. So if we work on our inner well-being, we'll do better as social innovators, entrepreneurs, and change makers. So how can we bring this conversation forward and make it a priority for everyone? Thank you.
There's different ways to bring it to the attention of everyone, and hard of me to say use social media. That would be too easy. But that's the truth. I mean, several groups, we have groups and communities have so much voice on social media because they're able to speak and get people that are interested, and that voice is heard. So I'd say groups are really, really important, not just on Facebook, but across the social media, and to be heard. Also, just speaking once again for Facebook, and I don't want this to sound like I'm doing a big advertisement here because that bothers me, but we just launched a fund, but it's in France, but there's funds across the globe that would help initiatives of different kinds to be realized. I mean, maybe not exactly what you're doing here, because I understand what you're. The biggest way to get people around your project is to create a community around it. And like we're all saying here, everyone around the table, is through technology, you can bring those people together if they're sitting next to you, or if they're really far away. So I'd just say bring that community together and have technology has given us the power to share our voice.
Essam, do you want to?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Last years, I think well-being and mental health, it becomes very attractive and we use it a lot. I have a problem with that because we use it in a way that it's like a trend, and mental health shouldn't be a trend. It shouldn't be heavily based on professionals and an approach. Also, in a self-approach. I used to be a surgeon before I became a child psychiatrist, plastic surgeon, for a couple of years, which is the dream of any medical students. And when I did it because it was my decision. It was like I understand something. I go through something, and I start believe. I go for therapy. I understand what mental health is. So what I'm trying to say, it needs to start from each of one of us. And when really, as a people who work in the field, starts believing that, and we put the stigma aside, and it's not a taboo anymore in our community, in our family, in our friends, in my children, my wife. When we put this aside and we say, this is something that it's here in the room, and it's not a taboo, and it's not a stigma, then the unseen will be seen.
And I still think there's a lot of constraints within the workplace. This is the kind of the progress and the kind of time you need outside the workplace. But if somebody is in the workplace, apps are great in terms of connectivity and not creating that sense of feeling alone, isolated, a little bit out of sorts. In some ways, it's that workplace has to work, and then life works outside it. I mean, we're very, very dependent on how we function every day in terms of our sense of validation and our professional expertise. And so how do you make that work environment be that kind of perfect environment? I mean, we're thinking of diversity, we're thinking of gender equality, we're thinking of diversity. How about bringing in a sort of intergenerational workplace? This is, you know, people are very afraid of this grey tsunami of the retired who are going to, you know, bring down economies. They're not being work the same way.
From our experience, without that great tsunami, humanity cruise not exist, because no professional, a senior professional with huge amount of experience, want to leave everything behind and come to a refugee camp and provide a mental health service to a refugee. So our therapists are well educated and they are eager and they are good people, but they have less experience. But if I connect them through technology with a senior psychiatrist who's sitting in Boston or in Canada or in Palestine or in Jordan, and he supervise them and he talk with them and he support them, then I can bring, you know, the knowledge of this great tsunami to the young generation who are working, for example, in a field like this.
But that's outside a traditional workplace. I know we're changing in terms of our workplaces. They're not as traditional as they used to be.
What is a workplace? Because how do you today, a workplace could be one of the people here that work at home. And if they didn't have technology, they would be alone. So their workplace is a Facebook page or just a MacBook, and that is it. And then so there's a workplace like AXA, which is hundreds of employees on an open space. So I think every workplace has a different need. And then once again, going back to what we've said, technology is just a means to hit the objectives that we've set for our workplace. So when you're having 5,000 employees, it's not the same thing as somebody working home alone. And so we have to find the right tools to adapt to those situations. And that's what's good, is that it's not going to be the same case for AXA as for Facebook, where Facebook was built on we're built on technology. So we've been communicating bottom up forever. But for traditional workplaces, there's a change going on. But it's not just the director telling people what to do. It's
no, exactly. There's a flattening of that. But within, let's say, your Facebook headquarters, have you got gender equality, diversity, intergenerational workspace there?
Totally.
Okay.
I think, and something that we have been always, I mean, coming from the Silicon Valley, this is very cultural, but it's also gone through and it is just demonstrated in all of our offices around the world, just the way that we work. You come as you are. So there's a really, really, I mean, nothing is perfect because we have a lot of engineers. So it's very hard to get a total diversity with the people that we're looking for. But we do everything to promote that diversity, whether it be social demographic, because it's not just about what color you are. It's also about where we privilege people that just don't have high diplomas. To have that complete diversity in the workplace, it's not just a poster that we put on the wall, but it actually is happening. For example, AI lab. AI. And we've done so much to do this, but this is something that we work on every day and say, how do we as a diversity?
Say you've done so much, and let Sandrine come in. When you say you've done so much, why is it not happening then? When you say it's
because there are no candidates. Now, if we had them, and this is a very big with diversity because it has grades. Women are not pushed. Math, science, and we're still there. We're sitting here in the pink room, saying the same things that we have said before. I'm sorry to be so direct. We do not have these candidates. We don't have women candidates.
Yeah, because it doesn't start at the beginning. Sandrine,
no, I was going to say we really feel the need, maybe that could be a conclusion, to develop our product also to bring more diversity, because some of the services we have developed, the innovation, they're made for everyone, like teleconsultation, people for senior care, etc. But what we see is that women are great adopters of this product. So teleconsultation, 60% of the calls from women. We have a startup for senior care. So of course, senior people, more and more women. People that take care of this, of the family, daughters, usually 68% of the time are women. And also the professional caregivers, also 80% are women. So more and more we see that we have to develop to bring diversity in our product design, because they are great adopters, and so we to have a better reach, better usage, we need to hear their voice. So we really try to have diversity in our team, and when we develop a new product through customer research, focus group, we always put some diversity to make sure we collect
Are we still sort of, in terms of how we view this new world, which is really what we're talking about, is melding worlds, so that we, everybody always says, well, never, the emoji smile will never be as important as the human smile, but it's not as simple as that, because there's, an emoji smile can generate a lot of empathy, a lot of connection. And we are trying to kind of get ourselves into a world that's not one thing or the other. So I'm wondering whether, in terms of how we're moving with technologies, are we beginning to see these bridges being applied, but properly? We're beginning to function within this new world that's not just physical or digital. It's a world that's encompassing, like you're saying, your children. It's a different world, and it's a more comfortable world. It doesn't have to be adversarial. It doesn't have to be antagonistic between one or the other. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, and we're going back to communities, which is really the focus of Facebook for the last year. Mark Zuckerberg talked about it this year, and we have a Facebook Communities Leadership Program around the world that gives funding to these communities so that they can be together, like we said, outside of the platform. So, for example, in Brazil, we have a community leader that has created a community for deaf people because they're isolated and they have no way to communicate. So this community brings them together online because they can communicate online, but also in the real world. In Africa, we have a community around farming because they don't get information about how they can make more of a profit out of farming, and that they get together online. Wanted as a community is just simple things like, what can I do for my neighbor? What can my neighbor do for me? I need a class. I need just bringing people together.
The emphasis on community, it makes more sense, but if you use it as a tool, a chainsaw can be a tool as well. And I'm not saying that glibly. I mean, do we need to be regulated with these tools? Should there be some kind of regulation when it comes to how we use these tools?
I loved your answer earlier on.
I don't have a problem with regulation, but before regulation, I do this in my private clinic. When a father comes start talking about my child is stressed on something, I say, open your Facebook, okay? Facebook give you something good to do with it. Maybe a little bit, I'm saying good things about Facebook. I met my wife in Facebook.
I didn't ask
that's
him.
Why
we've
there
never
you
met
go.
before.
There's a promotional
That's why my
moment.
wellness is okay because of Facebook. No, but the thing is, what I'm trying to say is,
Bringing people
when a
together.
father share, he upload a video of a murder, I don't know, in Syria or something, and he share it, and he know that he can put an age restriction on this. He knows that he can do many things to protect not just his children, other children, and he put it public. And he doesn't think about his child. He think about his digital narcissism or something. So before I come and ask from the big companies and the big technology to come and regulate the ways, it's more easy if we start from ourselves. Okay. Facebook is a social media. It's not a place where I can put pictures of dead children in Gaza and in Syria. I work with refugees. I confirmed this for 54 kids in 28th of October 2015, in one day. I didn't upload dead pictures. I upload just pictures of children who are smiling. Why? Because I have nephews, I have nieces that I know that they will go to Facebook and they will see it.
Yeah.
This is the first thing. And the second thing, I want to respect these people. I want to celebrate their strength. So it comes from us.
And but the data side of things is very complicated. And one thing is coming together and forming communities, but another thing is actually giving of yourself your entire identity to another entity that isn't being regulated. We've got a bit of GDPR going on, but it's not perfect. And I'm wondering whether we do have to look at this in a much more narrow way. For example, every individual here owning their own data, and they decide what to do with it.
But everyone in this room has total control over the data, at least that you share on Facebook. And if you don't know about this, please go to privacy settings and set up your privacy settings in the way that suits you, meaning that you can share. If you only want to share with your sister, you only share with your sister. If you only want to share with me, you only share with me. If you don't want to share anything, you don't share anything. We are a social network. The idea was sharing. But we give every person the control to decide what they want to share, with whom they want to share, and if they change their mind because they're not happy the next morning when they wake up and see that ugly picture of themselves on Facebook, they can take it down. Those are your information. You decide with whom you share it. And we totally respect the GDPR, just to go back to that, because that's very important. It's the law, and we respect the law. But before there was a GDPR, we had in place all of these tools. People need to use them. I was on
but
the...
it's not so much social media, it's also the apps. Technology apps also then gather that data. And, you know, some of it, it's great with your consent. It's for medical records and research, and the other is not. So
think before you share, I think, is a really good guide. And like you were saying, we are part of a digital era. We need to understand what we're sharing and why we're sharing it. Facebook feels we have a responsibility to educate people about that. We want people to be conscious about that. I was on the beach all summer, this summer, with Energy Music Awards, just trying to speak to younger people, to explain to them how they can protect their data. And they were quite more savvy than the older generation. So it's quite interesting to see this divide. But it's part of our responsibility is to educate people, but it's also people need to use the tools that they have. I mean, we have a car. If you go in a car, you're not going to say to Renault, you're responsible for all the deaths on the road. Did the person put on their seatbelt? Did the person use the brakes? Did the person get drunk before they got in the car? It's almost the same kind of a thing. So we have the brakes. We have the seatbelt. We're asked people to use them, and that's with anything, with apps, with technology. We need to also use the tools that are given to us.
Yeah, I think to share data, people, like you said, they have the choice or not to share, and they share it if they see the value, if they have a value back.
But you want to be encouraged to make that choice, not have a drop down that says, you know, do you accept, do you not accept?
We have a pop-up that comes up if you're in public that says, hey, Michelle, are you sure you want to share this in public? Okay. That comes down. That tells people, oh, wait a minute, I didn't want to share that maybe. That's incredible. For somebody that you say makes their money off of sharing, we help people not share.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is an ongoing discussion here because we're at the very early stages of what data means in data collecting. And we've all been burnt a bit by it. So any sort of last kind of, you know, this is about bridging those two worlds. How do we do it in the work? I mean, is that kind of bridging that's happening in the workplace happening in our personal lives as well? Is it the same kind of bridging or different kind of bridges? In the sense that when you're at work, it's about, you know, how does an organization not be so hierarchical? It's about flattening authority. It's about being open with each other. It's all that. But in our day-to-day lives, we are still in that, I don't want to do it, or I do want to do it. I accept technology, I don't accept it. I don't want to be too techie, and I want to, you know, have an outdoor life. So how do we make that work for us? We're still very torn about technology versus a real world.
I don't think our children are.
See, I mean, much less than my generation.
And I just will end with one really, for me, meaningful example of how technology work and all that bridges. And so how I feel less lonely. I understand that I'm always yelling at my kids, get off the smartphone, stop texting, start doing this.
Exactly. What do we do?
Of course, but that's education. That's just with the TV and the phone. We did the same thing. My mom said, get off the phone, get away from the TV, put down your Walkman. So that's parental education. But what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling personally, last week I lost my father. It's a horrible thing. Yeah. I posted on Facebook because I felt that I wanted to honor him. I was so lonely before that. But the people that reached out to me, the people that sent me such beautiful messages, well, you know, that really helped me get through last week. And it was workers, it was people that didn't know my dad, didn't know me. And I think that's one of the beautiful things. I was alone, and I don't feel alone. And I think that's incredible. And I know there's other bad things when we come about hate speech and pictures, and there's a lot of work to be done. And we've got to work together on it. There's just not one person that solve all those problems. And we are working on those problems. But we also have to think of positive reinforcement, great case studies. And I can tell you, this week, I was really happy that I had some friends.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please thank today's panel. I think it's an open discussion, it's continuing, but we're moving into this AI-enhanced world. And hopefully we'll be a little bit more supportive of each other. Thanks very much. Yeah.